Hello, good day to you. This is Martin Kagan from Data Cocoon and Before Your Eyes. We're going to go straight into a live streaming call center system. Over here, you can see the first of several three-dimensional images. This is already populated. There's been 2,200 calls thus far. I'm able to restart it and resume the computation of these calls, or I can just leave it as it is, paused, and reflect upon it, which I'm going to do. I'm going to compare that to a flat system that hasn't been started yet. I'm just going to start it for purposes of discussion. And as you can see, the calls are coming in fast and furious into this call center array, which I'm going to describe momentarily. I'm going to stop it at this point, or pause it rather, and go through what we're looking at. So essentially, in this currently flat structure, which is not going to be flat in a moment, we are looking at two regional centers, followed by the provinces, followed by districts, followed by zones, followed by the centers, core centers, followed by the teams. So there are 50 teams, so it's fairly large. Doesn't say how many people in a team, could be one, could be five. But the calls come in at a rapid rate. I can increase the speed at any stage to ultra fast. And as you can see, the calls are being tallied, and this is a live streaming system. Everything is live. I'm speaking at a pace because to get through this all, I'm going to have to keep that pace up. So I'm pausing it, going back to that previous model, if that's okay, to explain what we saw. So this is after 2,200 calls, and the calls have already been tallied and calibrated according to the scale that we see here, -5 to +5, which is the equivalent, as I said many times before, of 1 through 10, recalibrated on a different scale to allow us to create this topography, which is critical in the understanding of the data. From this, we can see what is normal, what is slightly above, what is exceptional in terms of those things. We can drill down, if we so wished, and get to the analysis of that data by specific KPIs and the KPI evaluation of that, which would tell us right over here, agent 48 handled the call exceptionally well, or we could go through on this side and choose a different agent and see how they had their composition of their handling of the call, so we can make a comparison. I see it is on rotation. I'll switch it off and keep it to that spectre. As you can see, there's positives and negatives. It is somewhat difficult someone to see the negative, so I have an inversion function that will just change the positive to negative, so we can look at what was underneath on top and be able to see all those negatives and take it from there. We'll go back to where we were and continue the conversation. So there's a negative. We would click on that. If I'm not mistaken, we would double click on that, and we would get the 2D view of these calls, pick that up, look at it, and see how that call measured up against other calls. Go back to where we were. There's a lot of import and exportation of data, so that we are able to import an existing file with its history for review, like a management review of a certain sequence. Let's say there was a bad time period and we wanted to review that period, we would save that, bring it back, it would bring it back in this format exact, and we could take it from there. When we export, I'll show you a couple of features, but we're going back to the main system. We're over here. All we've done is covered page 1 and page 2. There's a lot to cover and I need to speak fairly rapidly. The next, we've done that, and then we look at how the calls are being physically handled on a structured basis. We go back again. I apologize for back and forth. We'd resume the activity at high speed. We'd come back to where we were, and we would see that the calls now are dynamically being updated through the system. Let the system just kick in there because we stopped it. But essentially it would dramatically show us what was working within that system. Let's make sure everything is on. Oh, it's on slow. Okay. I'm going to make it go extra fast for a moment, and I'm going to change the nature of the calls from positive actually to negative, so we can see negative calls being handled. And we come back to where we were, and we should see the calls going down in spike, and the efficiency would change over the period of time. Come back to that once it's marking itself. And now we go to the key. How do we make money from this, or how do we save money? And here we have a very interesting device. It's a Sankey, which is designed to be dynamically active, as you can see. If you look on the right hand side over here, these figures will change. It's set to, you just saw a change there. It's set to a basic Skypin plus incentive for handling calls well, and obviously negative Skypins for it going badly. You're not going to deduct anything, but you're going to be able to, from this, immediately assess which agent and which calls were badly held. We can go to that and it will change it dynamically over here. I can say agent 35, tell you exactly where it was and what was the net effect of the negative call. So that gives us now the concept of fiat currency plus incentive, like a token. We're tracking tokens. We go back to the system itself. We're now up to stage value. We now look simply at timeline. Timeline is essentially when the calls came through, and we're able to look at them from whether they were positive and be able to get a general view of that to when they are negative. Okay, so that helps us get a handle on what's going on. I'm just going to go back to where it was. Average rating, if I'm not mistaken. And that's where we were at the last moment. Right. So then we get to the classic rows and then the KPI rows. Classic rows looks like this. It's going to take the same conical shape and assume that to be. So a lot of data is already being embedded into the file. 60 columns here. It's structured in 60s. So 60 seconds, 60 minutes, however we want to do it. It can be handled accordingly, and there are set up structures that handle this and play these 60-second data bytes in of themselves over the period of time. Here we are able to immediately see exactly what we're looking at, and since we're dealing with this data, we might as well look at it from the perspective of depth 6, which is this one right over here, or we could look at it from the point of view of the call center itself. Now we've just got the outer ring to look at, and we can see how the calls, positives and negatives, are being handled. Clearly there's a lot of negatives, a lot of work to be done, but then again I did set it to negative. So if I go back, I'll come back to that, take this ultra, go to slow, change the negative to positive to normal. All future calls will be on a normal type basis, and we go back to where we were, which was that rows, for one moment. Back to its format. And now what we do is we have already evaluated some of the stuff. We go back and we look at it through the KPI instead of through how the calls were handled in terms of this. We're looking at the KPI evaluation of that. And this one is quite interesting. I've already set it up in a specific format. It's these two keys over here. The data originally looks like the following. This is when it's thinned out. And you can see positive and negatives. And when we thin it out, we can select either the positive handling calls or the negative handling calls, and then get it to the exact level that we're looking at. There is a lot of calls, so it does take time. So you can be a little bit patient with the system. It's handling a high volume. Or we could just look at from this point of view here. Another way to do that is just to look at the critical calls. And we can make that even thinner. And now we've got just the aspect of those calls and those telephonists who are handling them either badly or not so great. In this case, these are all negative, so they're not handling them great at all. And we can then go through them. They're all to a level of 5. So that's 0. When you go 1 through 10, that is essentially 1, a badly handled call that someone's given a negative response on. And then we could go through that and get to the statistical information of what that represents. Over here is the interesting feature. You can see I'm at 55. It should go to 60 and then start a new version. If this was at 2, I'd be going back and forward through the time. This is what's called the virtual time machine, VTM. That's what we call it. So we go back. We've looked at this closely. Go back again. And now we look at something fairly interesting. Hasn't been fully developed yet because the system's static. It comes back, and then we're looking at this management center, the threat center. I've set it to critical only, and the voice is off, but I'll switch it on for a moment.
Alert, Agent 41 call clarity is exceptional. Alert, Agent 30 follow-up quality is exceptional high at 5.0.
That proves the point. You can set it to the threshold and it will communicate, so you have audio as well as visual, 3D as well as 2D. This thing is truly comprehensive, to say the very least. We then come to reports. This hasn't been done yet, so we would evaluate all 2,500 calls at this point in time. It would give us an overall distribution of the calls, and we could drill down in this and get what is going on from the analysis. So it already tells us something quite spectacular. Going back again, we look at the same thing through a heat map. You can see the relationship of those calls to the handling of the calls. We can see the different colors and the different implementations thereof. And you can look at it in multiple different formats, KPI, top nodes, depth. I'll leave that for another conversation. What we need to do is try and wrap up. Correlation is also there, that you'd see a correlation between the data. If it was running, this thing here would be filled out completely. And then we have the important aspect from a financial standpoint, and that is these sheets. There are several sheets. All data is stored within these sheets. They were blank at the start. As you'll check, the delta should be is filled in at this point in time. The base has already got data, and we actually generate the rows and the KPI models from all this data sheets. They are all controlled. You can see ready up here. It's gone through the blockchain. It's ready for audit. If I wanted to audit it, it will reconfirm that it is in green, means that it's 100% balanced. That means cast and cross-card balance, with due respect. And I'm quite happy with the status of that system. Back to the system here. Just to switch, here's the system. A fresh system only has 189 calls. I have switched out between the two. I would just start streaming it. and we should get, or just resume, I apologize. And here we get that system cranking out those calls, which is going to give us all those reports, all those 3D dimensional views. Many thanks for watching again. Martin Kagan. Hope to speak to you soon. Thank you.